real greatness is that he studies better than everybody else. His true greatness were the Patriots, is they adjust better to everyone else, and that's because they do better research. So will we use this game and really apply it to what's going on and realize if we want to move things, then we have to focus really on that real problem. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot talking on a high level, but let's use the platform to talk about the issues that will actually push change. And in a lot of cases, the NFL is actually already in those areas. We just need to make sure we actually are talking about it.
You mean to tell me if I studied harder, I could have been Tom Brady when I grew up?
Sure. Maybe in your.
Can you imagine me? You would have rocked me on the floor. Dr. King, what do you think of this whole conversation?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything that Brittany said. One of the things that makes a lot of this a challenge is that there has not been a clear spokesperson or spokespersons to identify and to make clear the narrative, because the narrative has continued to change from the beginning, and we need to get back to what she just talked about. Unfortunately, that's not what the masses of people understand. And one of the things that my father's movement taught us is it taught us how to frame the issue, and then how to bring that tension to the issue, and then the strategy behind it. And I think part of what's going on now, there's a group saying, kind of boycott the game, don't look at the games. And I'm saying, okay, but what are we doing by doing that? I mean, if you're not making clear what is the purpose and what is going to be the direct impact. And then finally, at the end of the day, this is a platform, and people are going to use it in different ways to deal with the messaging. But the NFL is not the only problem in America. They can't be held responsible for the systemic problems that we've had for a long time as it relates to all of the issues that we're talking about. And so I just want to make sure that we're not just putting the onus merely on them, although they are a part of the group of wealthy people in our nation that have impact and influence in that system. So I get that. But at the end of the day, you have people who are sponsoring that game. We're not saying anything about the sponsors, but we're saying a lot about the NFL. So we have to be fair, I think, across the board when we're dealing with these issues. And at the end of the day, we got to be clear on what the message is. And going back to Chris and what she said originally, my father was a solutionist. He wasn't about just boycotting for boycotting. And she said the whole purpose of direct action is to bring about creative tension, to get people in a room, to have the necessary conversations, and to deliver on certain things. And if they refuse to deliver, you put more pressure on. So you got to know where those pressure points are. We haven't found the pressure points, because at the end of the day, if the players are not holistically boycotting, how effective can we be at boycotting?
And that's exactly why, I decided not to sing the anthem this year. I decided it wasn't the right time for me because too much going on. When you look at this entire conversation, and there seems to be a need to do more. What is the host committee? What are you guys doing to push more so that the underrepresented feel represented this year and welcome at the Super Bowl?
Sure. One of the things that we're the most proud of with our activities is that okay?
That's why I like handheld mics. I can't have it.
We partnered with a group here, a nonprofit called Wonder Root. It's a community art group here in Atlanta. It does a lot of wonderful murals around town. And partnering with them, with 10 different artists, we had community conversations throughout the summer where we brought groups together to talk about the issues, the challenges that people face on a daily basis. And not just related to race, but also to income inequality, to criminal justice reform, to domestic violence, to LGBT issues. And these artists sat in these conversations. One of the requirements of their participation was to sit in the community conversations and listen to the dialogue and listen to the voice of Atlanta and what the people here are experiencing and what they see as a perfect future for Atlanta moving forward. And through that, they've created 30 different murals that have been started to go up here since Thanksgiving in and around the downtown area, Auburn Avenue, over on the west side. So you'll see these things popping up. And they're going to be
How far
here.
out do you guys start planning this?
We as the host committee have been around for 2 years. The art project has been started a year ago, so it's been a 1-year project. And these murals will be here forever. They're going to live on in the City of Atlanta's permanent art collection after the game. But again, it's a chance we brought the communities together, these groups together, so they could exchange that dialogue. The artists took that information and made it a permanent, lasting mural that hopefully will continue that conversation and maybe spark change, spark interest, or shine a light on an issue that otherwise may not have been out there.
Did y'all start getting nervous when everything started happening over the last couple of years? No, we're going to Atlanta, guys. Let's all be there. Like, was that the conversation amongst the host committee?
You know, I think going back to the opening comments here from Dr. King is it's the timing couldn't be better. I mean, with what is going on around the league, what the league is also trying to do to try to change that narrative, to try to change that direction. It's the perfect place to be. We wouldn't be having this conversation in Minneapolis last year, and they won't be doing it in Miami next year because that's not what those two cities are about. But I think civil rights, social justice, that's what Atlanta is. You know, the city that's too busy to hate. And so that's what I think makes Atlanta the perfect place for this game this year with everything that's going on.
And what's your assessment of that?
Well, I think this point that you just made about the fact that the conversation will be different everywhere is important to zero in on, in particular because of the presence of the King Center, of organizers and activists across Atlanta, of folks who are forcing these conversations to happen. And it is awesome, and I want you to hear me say, it is awesome to invest financially in the places that need and deserve it. And also, not but, and also. The legacy of Dr. King really calls us not only to provide charity, but to assess the reason why the charity is necessary in the first place. So a Kingian lens requires us not just to feed the hungry, but to assess why there are hungry people, right? A Kingian lens tells us that it's not just about helping poor folks, it's about figuring out why there are poor folks in the first place. That's why he was marching with the sanitation workers in Memphis when he was assassinated. So there's an opportunity, I think, and not just with the NFL as a corporation, but with committee members, owners, players, people not just with wealth, but with a great deal of influence, and to Dr. King's point, a platform to say, who is the sphere of influence that I have? What senators, congresspeople, governors, state legislators do I know? What corporation and what C-suite folks do I know in corporations? How can I actually influence the folks who I know have power in the spaces that I'm trying to change, so that we get to the point where actually charity isn't necessary, because we've engaged in so much solidarity with people that we've taken care of the root and not just the branch.
That's right. Yes.
Kamala Harris? Yeah, I found you running in this one. Set it up. She's strong. I'll call you back one. All right. So as we move on to the next part of the panel, they're wrapping me up, and I've appreciated all of these points and definitely given me some perspective. If anybody has their final thoughts on everything, just your final thoughts as we go into the next panel on just overall, where we stand.
Well, I just want to say to all of us, I think we have a responsibility to really get serious about what's going on in our society. I think we spent enough time. I like us doing these dialogues, but conversation is one thing, action is another thing. But the purpose for doing the conversations is to further enlighten you and to open your eyes to truth. so that you can take that truth and begin to engage in getting, as she said, to the root of everything. We've been kind of addressing symptoms in our society over and over and over again. That's why we keep having the same conversation. But we are not doing the very hard work that needs to be done on a daily basis. And I'm glad, personally, originating with the Black Lives Matter, that they would not let it go. They, you know, they're responsible for pushing us into these spaces that may be a little uncomfortable but necessary. But again, don't get comfortable in the conversation. That's where you want to land, because the purpose of the conversation is now to go and know what to do. So these conversations just help to, again, enlighten you on what really is the case. So now that you can play your role and take your place in bringing about the necessary change. And there's a lot to do. And we will never be able to do it all in one generation. But there are things that we can identify, that we can unite around, that we can address, and if necessary, put the muscle into what, like they did in the Montgomery bus protest for 381 days, because I've not seen that kind of stamina yet in movement in terms of an issue and a focus. And Dr. King calls us to that through his work, to really identify whatever that is, and everybody be brought around and educated about it, enlightened about it, and activated in it, and doing what's necessary to disturb what needs to be disturbed, comfort what needs to be comforted, and ultimately to bring about the necessary change and transformation.
I love it. Was that